A pillar of blue light crashes down through the darkness, dragging Aizawa Yuri back into consciousness. He wakes up, slumped against cold stone inside a cavern glowing with fading cerulean light. His mind is empty. No memories. No purpose. He studies his gloved hands like they belong to someone else, and realizes he doesn't even know his own name. Then a translucent blue status window flickers into view and identifies him as Aizawa Yuri. The name feels foreign. He doesn't have time to process it. Shapes move in the shadows. Goblins crawl out from every corner, eyes glowing, fangs bared. Weak ones, bigger elites, all circling him like he's already dead. Then the ground shakes. A massive, obese goblin wearing a crooked golden crown steps forward. The Goblin Lord mocks him, assuming he's just some unlucky guild servant who wandered into the wrong cave. With a sneer, it signals the horde to kill him. Yuri watches the swarm rush in and wonders if his life is ending before it even begins. Then something snaps. A flash of memory cuts through his blank mind, a silver knight in crimson, standing in a storm of steel. His body moves on instinct. He grabs a simple wooden branch from the ground. What should have been clumsy turns deadly. He lunges. The stick slices through the air like a legendary blade. The first goblin is blasted away in a burst of light. Impossible strength flows through him. His movements are sharp, refined, automatic. The Goblin Lord shouts for its minions to overwhelm him, but Yuri is already tearing through them. The wooden branch leaves streaks of light as bones shatter and bodies fall. Notifications flood his vision, announcing advanced swordsmanship skills unlocked one after another. It hits him mid-slaughter, he remembers. In a past life, he was the Sword Saint. The cave floor is covered in corpses. Enraged, the Goblin Lord unleashes a torrent of magical fire, swallowing Yuri in a roaring inferno. The monster laughs, certain no swordsman could survive that kind of heat. But when the flames fade, Yuri is still standing. Another notification appears. Not only did he survive, he mastered the fire itself. Advanced fire magic acquired instantly. The air around his raised hand distorts with heat. A shimmering barrier protects him as the Lord stares in disbelief. Yuri doesn't hesitate. His expression turns cold, distant. He raises one hand and commands a firestorm. The atmosphere ignites. A spiraling vortex of flame erupts from the ground, swallowing the Goblin Lord in a pillar of blinding light. Its screams vanish as its body is reduced to ash. The cave falls silent, except for the fading crackle of embers. Yuri stands in the glow, watching its life force disappear. And then the truth fully surfaces. This isn't just one past life returning. A deeper history unfolds in fragments. Before becoming the Sword Saint, he had another reincarnation as the Demon Emperor. Supreme magic, dark dominion, absolute power. A status window confirms it. He carries the combined memories and abilities of both the Demon Emperor and the Sword Saint. And before all of that, his very first life was painfully ordinary, a corporate slave trapped in a suffocating black company. Then came his rise as Demon Emperor. Then his rebirth as the legendary Sword Saint. Now, in this third reincarnation, all those lives overlap inside him. The weight of countless battles presses against his palms. He remembers the people who begged for his protection, the ones who feared him even as he saved them. The exhaustion of standing alone atop mountains of corpses under a crimson sky. He was worshipped, used, labeled a monster, treated like a weapon. In every life, he was someone else's tool. He walks through the cavern's rocky passage, memories flickering like dying candles, until light spills in from ahead. He steps out of the tunnel and into a sunlit valley. Golden light washes over rolling green mountains stretching into the horizon. Warmth touches his face. For the first time, he feels something steady inside him. Not confusion, not rage, but clarity. He's done being a pawn, done serving destiny, done carrying the expectations of the world. In this life, he won't be the Demon Emperor. He won't be the Sword Saint. He won't be a corporate slave. Aizawa Yuri will live for himself. A massive rock formation towers over a forest clearing like a sleeping titan. Near a dark cave entrance, the young adventurer sits on a fallen log, laying out everything he owns: 2 heavy sacks of food, a handful of copper coins, and a rusted sword that looks one swing away from snapping. It's not impressive, but it's better than nothing. He lifts the blade, testing the weight, wondering if it's any better than the wooden branch he once used. As he studies it, a blue interface flickers into view. He's gained the analysis skill. His eyes light up with intricate blue circles, and the world shifts into raw data. The sword is revealed as a D-grade iron blade in terrible condition. The dried meat, F-grade. The copper coins, exactly what they look like, low value. The skill is useful, but when he scans the surrounding forest, nothing shows up. The environment is still beyond his reach. A sudden rustle snaps him into a defensive crouch. Instead of a monster, a bright blue slime hops out of the bushes. It chirps softly, wobbling closer with big, sparkling eyes that scream hunger more than hostility. He decides not to fight something that clearly isn't a threat. Reaching into his bag, he tosses it a strip of dried meat. The slime devours it happily. System messages explode across his vision. Beginner taming, intermediate taming, advanced taming. Just like that, He unlocks a grade B skill that lets him communicate with monsters. The slime presses affectionately against his leg, shimmering with joy. It clicks in his mind. His skills grow based on his choices. The world reacts to how he moves through it. Then a scream tears through the forest. A wolfman bursts from the cave, sprinting toward the clearing in pure panic. It's a lichen named Poncho Panza, dressed like a regular traveler, but shaking like he's seen death. Tears stream down his face as he runs from something massive. The adventurer runs alongside him, asking what's chasing him, but Poncho barely answers. Now isn't the time. The trees above explode apart as a B-grade cockatrice descends from the sky. A monstrous mix of bird and reptile, beak wide open and ready to strike. While Poncho is falling apart, the youth watches calmly, more curious than afraid. He offers protection in exchange for answers. Desperate, Poncho agrees instantly. The youth stops and draws his cheap blade. He knows it won't pierce that hide as it is, so he channels blue energy into it. Light wraps around the steel, the edge humming violently. He steps forward and swings once. The air splits apart. A massive arc of force rips through trees and earth, carving a smoking trench across the clearing. The cockatrice is sliced clean in half mid-air before it can even finish its scream. Silence falls. Notifications flash again. Beginner, intermediate, advanced magic enchantment acquired in seconds. He barely notices. The sword in his hand shatters into fragments. It couldn't handle the power he forced through it. Poncho stares at him in horror. The monster that chased him is dead, but the boy standing there feels even scarier. He calls him a monster and bolts into the woods. From the shadows, the little blue slime watches quietly. An orange magic core pulses where the cockatrice fell. Later, after things calm down, the youth and Poncho sit beneath filtered sunlight. The youth admits he has no memories, no idea who he is or why he's this strong. Poncho confesses he thought he was a demon at first. Then he explains the area these woods belong to cockatrices. His former party used him as bait and abandoned him to die while they hunted rare items. Despite everything, Poncho suggests they head to the Adventurers Guild. Registering there might help uncover his identity. The nearest one is in the commercial city of Reborn, about 20 kilometers southwest. The youth listens, reflecting on his past lives. He remembers being an adventurer before living freely, answering to no one. The idea feels right. For this life, it might be perfect. He thanks Poncho and prepares to leave, then pauses. 20 kilometers is far on foot. He wishes for teleportation, or at least a carriage. A massive shadow suddenly blocks the sun. Another cockatrice descends, crowned with jagged red feathers. Poncho immediately panics again, screaming as he runs for the trees. The youth stands still, glancing at his shattered sword. Without a weapon, maybe magic alone is enough. The cockatrice lands in front of him, but instead of attacking, it tilts its head and chirps softly. The sound feels familiar. He steps closer and gently touches its beak. A memory clicks. He asks if it's the slime. The creature leans into his hand, chirping happily. A blue window confirms it, a slime that evolved into a cockatrice form after consuming a magic stone. It can take the shape of what it eats. That changes everything. With a small grin, he climbs onto its back. The slime cockatrice lets out a proud cry and beats its wings. They rise above the forest canopy, wind tearing past as they soar through open sky. He laughs. This beats walking. In the distance, the spires of Reborn appear on the horizon. The city grows larger as they fly toward it, and toward whatever this new life is about to become. The red-crested bird stands tall on the dirt road outside the city, wind brushing through its feathers. Yuri pats its beak and thanks it for the ride, but says they should part ways here. A creature that massive would cause chaos inside the city walls. The bird tilts its head, confused, then suddenly erupts in blinding white light. When the glow fades, the giant cockatrice is gone. In its place, a small blue slime drops onto his chest armor and clings there. Yuri looks down, realizing it shifted forms to avoid attention, so it can change shape whenever it wants. He smirks and tells it to stick around. The slime chirps happily. As they approach the towering stone walls, he decides to name it Lime. They enter the Adventurers Guild, a grand building crowned with blue spires. Inside, he walks up to the counter where a cat-eared receptionist looks up from her paperwork. He calmly states he wants to register as an adventurer. She asks about his skills and experience, explaining they've been flooded with applicants lately. Yuri's mind flashes with fragments of past lives, knight, traveler, mage, but explaining reincarnations would only complicate things. So he simply says he has nothing special. The receptionist hesitates. Without credentials, acceptance is unlikely. Before Yuri can leave, a tall man with a thick mustache and heavy cloak steps forward. Galeo Figalos, a veteran examiner. After hearing the situation, he sighs and orders a testing device prepared. In his mind, the guild's pride is on the line. He'll show this clueless rookie the harsh truth. A massive glass pillar is rolled out, marked with Roman numerals from 1 to 10. It's a magic meter, designed to measure magical output. To qualify, a score of 30 is required. Galeo confidently explains it can withstand nearly 10,000 units far beyond a novice's limit. Yuri studies the fragile-looking device and casually asks if he'll still be allowed to take the exam if it breaks. The room freezes. Galileo bursts into loud laughter, assuring him it's impossible. Mocking grin in place, he gestures for Yuri to begin. Yuri places his palm on the glowing circle at the base. Cerulean energy explodes upward in a violent vortex. The light blinds the room. Wind whips through the hall. The numbers inside the pillar climb instantly 30, 50, 70, then keep rising at impossible speed. The pressure warps the air. Galileo and the receptionist are thrown backward. The numbers surpass every known limit. The glass shatters into thousands of fragments. Silence follows. Yuri glances at the wreckage and apologizes mildly, asking if that's a problem. Galileo forces a shaky laugh, claiming the device needed maintenance anyway. But behind his smile, his thoughts turn bitter. He's convinced the boy cheated somehow, and he decides this candidate deserves special treatment. He grants Yuri permission to proceed to the main exam. They step into a massive white stone arena packed with hundreds of applicants. The scale of it hits hard. This won't be easy. A cheerful girl with twin chestnut ponytails bounces up to him. Phil Arnett, 15, human, 7-time exam taker. She proudly offers advice. Yuri calmly points out that taking it 7 times means she failed 7 times. Her confidence collapses instantly as she sinks into despair. After recovering, she leans in and whispers that the new examiner made the test brutal. Right on cue, Galileo strides into the arena. Cloak billowing, blade drawn, voice booming. First trial, fencing. To pass, candidates must defeat him in a direct sword duel. The first applicant, Johnny Slanger, steps forward with cocky energy and a short sword. The signal sounds. He charges fast, blades clashing in sparks of red and green. To the crowd, it looks even. Johnny grows arrogant. Then Galeo's expression shifts. With a sudden surge of strength, he twists his blade. Johnny's sword snaps clean in half. The broken piece spins into the dirt. Galileo laughs loudly, mocking him and telling him to return to basic training. Johnny stands frozen in humiliation. The crowd murmurs nervously. No one wants to face that. Yuri watches quietly, activating analysis. Blue light fills his eyes as data windows appear. The truth becomes obvious. Galileo wields a B-grade shock sword. Johnny had an F-grade bronze sword. The fight was never equal. It wasn't skill. It was equipment. Galileo calls Yuri's name. Phil gasps, worried. Yuri steps forward calmly. He would have preferred more time to observe, but it doesn't matter. He reaches to his belt and draws his weapon. The crowd goes silent. In his hand is nothing more than a broken hilt with a jagged shard of steel sticking out barely a blade at all. Galileo frowns, confused. Yuri looks down at the fractured weapon without emotion. Then he walks toward the man who just shattered a full-length sword, ready to begin. The arena falls dead silent when everyone realizes Yuri is holding nothing but a jagged metal stump. Galileo stares at the broken blade, disbelief written all over his face. Yuri glances down too, finally connecting the dots, obliterating that cockatrice cost him his weapon. Galeo's shock turns into loud, mocking laughter. He points at the shattered sword, calling it garbage unworthy of a warrior. He claims he doesn't bully weaklings, and warns Yuri to quit now before embarrassing himself further. According to him, accidentally killing someone that defenseless would stain his reputation. Yuri doesn't react. If he can't clash blades, he'll win without touching steel. His eyes sharpen. He calmly tells Galileo the fight will end in a second. That does it. Galeo's face twists with rage. He charges, pouring his full strength into a decisive strike meant to crush him. Right as the blade comes down, Yuri activates a technique from his time as the Sword Saint Shrinkage. To the crowd, he vanishes into a blur. He slips through microscopic openings in Galeo's attack, gliding past him like a ghost. Before Galileo even realizes he missed, Yuri is already standing behind him. The jagged shard presses lightly against the back of Galeo's neck. The entire arena freezes. Phil stands there with her mouth hanging open. Galileo feels the cold metal at his spine and immediately drops his arrogance. He panics, declares Yuri the winner, and grants him a pass on the martial exam. The crowd erupts in stunned cheers, still trying to process what they just saw. Yuri lets the broken hilt fall. He thinks it's over. Heavy footsteps shake the ground. A massive man with a golden beard and white cape approaches Magnifigolos. He announces the test isn't finished. It's time for the magic trial. High above the arena, a giant red crystal prism floats in the sky, glowing ominously. To pass, Yuri must shatter it with magic. The other candidates stare upward in despair. It's hundreds of feet in the air. Spells begin flying ice shards, wind crescents, tiny flames, but they barely travel halfway before fading out. One by one, hopefuls hang their heads. Phil clutches her hair in panic. To everyone else, the test feels impossible. Yuri just tilts his head. Why is this hard? A burly examiner with a blonde mustache steps forward, laughing loudly. He assumes Yuri's silence means incompetence. He gives a lecture about how swordsmen can't grasp real magic and claims anyone who can't cast properly doesn't deserve to be an adventurer. He turns away, ready to fail the entire group. Yuri casually lifts one hand. A small orange flame forms in his palm. The examiner's laughter dies instantly. A violent pressure wave erupts outward as Yuri releases it. The giant man is blown backward, boots scraping against stone. The fireball rockets upward, growing larger and brighter as it climbs. When it strikes the red crystal, the sky detonates. A colossal explosion of gold and orange devours the horizon. Heat rolls across the arena. A shockwave slams into the stands, throwing candidates off their feet. The crystal vanishes inside a blazing inferno that dwarfs the entire Colosseum. Embers fall like burning snow. When the smoke clears, Yuri stands calmly, barely ruffled. He looks at his hand, mildly disappointed. He had toned the spell down, aiming for a normal fireball. To the others, that was a legendary inferno. Far away, on a cliff overlooking the city, a hooded figure watches the explosion. Hidden beneath black robes, a thin smile forms. They whisper that the awakening has begun, but the boy is still immature. They look forward to meeting him again. Their body dissolves into a serpent-like trail of black smoke that streaks across the sky before fading near the fortified city below. Back in the arena, the dust finally settles. Yuri sits casually atop the chest of a fallen knight in ornate red and white armor, golden hair sprawled across the dirt. The man lies completely defeated. Yuri looks down at him without hostility and lightly asks if that was enough to pass. The guild receptionist slides a crystalline blue card across the counter, a bold silver F stamped right in the center. She congratulates Yuri, explaining that every adventurer starts at F rank and climbs up through completed quests and achievements. Yuri takes the card without much reaction, quietly studying it as proof that he's officially registered. Around them, the massive guild hall hums with veteran warriors, rough laughter, and the smell of old wood and steel. She's just starting to explain how quest requests work when the atmosphere flips. Rapid footsteps pound across the floor. Before Yuri can even turn, a small figure rockets into his back. It's the girl from the exam, grinning like she just won a championship, throwing up a victory sign and nearly knocking him flat with pure energy. After steadying herself, she bows awkwardly. Her mahogany hair is tied into two lively pigtails, and she's dressed in a yellow and brown adventurer tunic. She introduces herself as Phil Arnett and immediately tells Yuri to call her Phil. When he gives his name, she lights up even more. She proudly flashes her own F-rank license, explaining there was a retest after the chaos of the first exam. A quick flashback shows exhausted candidates slumped over while an official reviews paperwork. Phil insists she only passed because of Yuri's help. Yuri brushes it off, saying he didn't really do anything. Not everyone's impressed. Across the hall, a group of veteran adventurers watches them closely. Leaning against tables with narrowed eyes, they don't like the noise or the newcomer getting attention. One man, Zack, his face half covered by long dark bangs, studies Yuri with a cold stare before muttering that the kid's just annoying. The next morning, golden sunlight spills across a city of stone rooftops and tight alleyways. Inside a cozy inn room, Yuri stretches in front of a wide window, yawning deeply. He can't remember the last time he slept this well. His mind briefly drifts back to his previous life, mud-soaked battlefields, monstrous beasts, endless fighting. A translucent blue screen suddenly materializes in front of him, softly glowing. It announces a newly acquired skill, beginner-level unattributed magic. Yuri studies it, sensing this magic is fundamentally different from what he once wielded. Still, the bed wins. Since his lodging's covered by adventurer funds, he ignores the notification and crawls back under the covers. That peace doesn't last. Footsteps thunder down the hallway. His door slams open so hard it hits the wall. Phil bursts in, shouting an overly cheerful morning greeting. Yuri can only glare at her, half asleep and clearly irritated. Her excitement dies instantly when she looks down. Yuri isn't on a bed frame, he's resting on a massive mound of wobbling blue jelly. The giant slime beneath him has a happy face and jiggles with soft, squelching sounds. Yuri explains the in-bed was too small, so his slime companion, Lime, expanded to act as a mattress. Phil just stares as he casually introduces the giant creature as his travel partner. Hands clasped in awe, Phil marvels at his ability to command a monster. She asks if she can squish Lime. Yuri looks to the slime for approval. Lime bounces happily in agreement. Phil immediately dives in, pressing her face and arms into the cool, squishy surface, completely enchanted. Yuri finally asks why she came. Phil snaps back to business, explaining their adventurer status is only provisional. There's a hidden final exam, and failing it means instant license revocation. Yuri considers how inconvenient that would be after all this effort. He agrees to participate, but when Phil eagerly presents a quest flyer she already grabbed for them, he shuts her down. He prefers working alone. The rejection crushes her. She collapses dramatically onto the rug, teary-eyed, begging him to reconsider. He doesn't budge. As he heads for the door with Lime perched on his shoulder, he pauses. Turning back, he asks a simple question. How do you even accept a quest? The question stops her crying cold. It's obvious, despite his strength, he has zero experience. Phil realizes he's powerful but completely new to how this world works. She admits she feels ordinary compared to him, but his performance during the exam inspired her. She wants to grow stronger and see his power up close. Yuri reflects on his own situation. He doesn't fully understand this world or his own abilities. For now, sticking with her makes sense. When he agrees, her face lights up instantly. He tells her to wait downstairs while he gets ready. Alone, he approaches the window and looks out over the city. Extending one finger toward the horizon, he focuses. A blinding beam of fire erupts from his fingertip, tearing across the sky toward a distant clock tower. High atop that tower, two masked figures in dark hooded clothing are spying through a brass lens. The beam slams into the masonry near them in a violent flash. Sparks and stone explode outward, the structure rattling from the impact. The observer lowers his lens, horrified. The device in his hand is now a charred wreck, smoke curling from shattered glass. The strike came from over 100 meters away, and it was precise enough to disable their equipment without leveling the tower. Realizing they've been exposed and their target is far more dangerous than expected, the spies retreat immediately. They need to report this to Zack-san. Back at the inn, Yuri stands by the open window, arms crossed, staring toward the clock tower. Sunlight highlights his sharp features as a shadow crosses his expression. He wonders who's watching him and why. Did he already make enemies? Or is something from his past catching up? Phil's cheerful voice calls from another room, asking if he's ready. The tension eases. Yuri answers calmly and takes one last look at the horizon before turning away from the window to join her. Phil charges down the forest trail like she's on a victory lap, calling back for Yuri to keep up. He follows at an easy pace, calm and unreadable, quietly comparing this peaceful walk to yesterday's chaos. The forest feels almost too quiet. A forest mouse and a plump rabbit peek out from thick green bushes, both so low in the monster hierarchy they barely register as threats. Yuri pauses, watching them until they dart away into the brush. This quest feels way too easy. Phil, meanwhile, is thrilled, saying they lucked out with the safest job possible. With obvious pride, she explains their mission: gathering medicinal herbs. It's beginner-friendly, low-risk, perfect for new adventurers. She even lined up at dawn to secure it. When Yuri dryly compliments her dedication, she lights up, soaking in the praise until she notices him drifting toward another path. She quickly corrects him, pointing north. That's where they're supposed to go. The eastern forest is a death trap, packed with high-level goblins and wolves. She has no idea Yuri literally woke up there yesterday, surrounded by monsters far worse. When he casually mentions defeating a cockatrice in the east, she laughs it off as an obvious joke. They reach a bright clearing Phil confidently declares is the herb field, only to find it completely stripped bare. Her excitement crashes. She drops to her knees, digging through the dirt in disbelief, while Yuri calmly notes someone beat them to it. Heavy footsteps interrupt them. Zack Barbare and two veteran adventurers step out, smug as ever. Yuri recognizes Zack from the guild. With a lazy grin, Zack confirms they harvested everything. Phil looks crushed. Then Zack pulls out a single fresh herb, pretending to play the generous senior. He claims experienced adventurers should guide newcomers. Phil rushes forward, teary-eyed and grateful. The second she reaches for it, Zack yanks it back. His expression twists into open malice as he mocks her innocence and calls them losers. The trio lectures them about crushing others to climb higher, laughing as they suggest the two should give up and crawl back home. Yuri watches silently, blue eyes sharp, recognizing the hostility. He wonders if these are the same people who've been watching him since morning. Still, he can't think of anything he did to earn this. Beside him, Phil trembles, fists clench tight. Anger burns across her face, but she forces herself to refocus. There's still time. They just need to find more herbs. Yuri nods. If they fail this provisional quest, their licenses are gone. Their journey ends before it even starts. They stare out over the endless green canopy. Searching it manually would be impossible. A soft wiggle stirs under Yuri's collar. Lime pops out, chirping excitedly. Yuri lifts the little blue slime into his hands, wondering what it wants since he already fed it. Blue energy sparks between them, forming a brief telepathic link. Understanding clicks instantly. Trusting Lime completely, Yuri throws it high into the sky. The slime rises above the treetops, glowing brighter and brighter, then splits. One becomes dozens in a flash. Tiny blue slimes scatter like rain over the forest, bouncing through branches and landing everywhere on leaves, the ground, even on Phil's shoulders and head. She stands frozen, staring at the swarm of miniature scouts. Yuri watches with a small, confident smirk. As long as they recover the herbs, it doesn't matter how they do it. The scattered blue slimes ripple and merge back together, forming a shimmering mound of translucent azure stacked with medicinal herbs. Phil throws her arms up, cheering like they just cleared a raid boss. Yuri stands beside her, calm as ever, arms folded. In just an hour, they've gathered more than enough to pass any requirement. He gives Lime a quiet nod of praise. The slime answers with a soft, proud vibration. Yuri suggests heading back to the guild, but Phil hesitates. She glances at the slimes, then toward the darker stretch of forest. Forcing a smile, she tells him to return without her. She just wants a short walk alone. Yuri studies her for a second, sensing something off, but lets her go. The moment she's out of sight, her cheerful mask drops. She walks deeper into the woods, sunlight flickering across her tense face. She stares at her gloved hand and thinks about Yuri, his strength, his composure, how effortlessly he handles everything. Standing next to him makes her feel painfully small. The memory of a sneering man with a golden eye and jagged grin resurfaces, his voice mocking her as a useless child who can't accomplish anything alone. Her fist tightens around a leaf, crushing it until green stains her glove. She refuses to stay in anyone's shadow. If she's going to be an adventurer, she needs to prove it herself. With sudden resolve, she kicks off the ground and leaps into the trees. She moves with surprising agility, vaulting between branches and swinging through the canopy. High above the forest floor, she finds what she was searching for, a nest tucked safely along a thick limb. For a moment, pride fills her chest. This is it. She feels capable, independent. Then, a low rumble vibrates through the underbrush. A massive gray wolf steps out from the shadows. Yellow eyes lock onto her. Its lips curl back, revealing rows of wet, gleaming fangs. Panic grips her. She's gone too deep. This is an E-class monster far above her F-rank ability. Her hands tremble as she draws her short sword. Fear threatens to paralyze her. For a split second, she almost shuts her eyes and gives in. But Yuri's image flashes in her mind, not as someone to compete with, but as someone who moves forward without hesitation. Her amber eyes snap open, burning with determination. She won't be a burden. She won't run. When the wolf lunges, she lunges too. Her blade slams into its snout midair, sparks bursting on impact. The force knocks her backward, but she regains footing and presses her back against a thick tree trunk, breath coming fast. She forces herself to focus every rustle, every shift in the shadows. The wolf charges again. She dives aside just as its claws rip through the bark, sending splinters flying. Using the momentum, she scrambles up a low branch. Now above it, she flips the descent into an attack. With a fierce cry, she drives her sword downward. The blade catches the filtered sunlight before plunging deep into its hide. A burst of magic detonates at the impact point, engulfing the wolf in a blinding flash. It collapses. Phil lands hard on the grass, chest heaving as she stares at the motionless body. Then it hits her. She won. A shaky laugh escapes her as she throws her fists into the air, shouting into the empty forest that she can succeed too. The victory lasts all of 5 seconds. A low growl rolls through the trees. Then another. And another. Her smile fades instantly. From the darkness beyond the clearing, dozens of yellow eyes flicker open. She didn't eliminate the threat. She summoned the pack. Wolves step forward from every direction, forming a tightening circle. Her throat dries. She tries to speak, but nothing comes out. When 2 wolves leap at once, jaws snapping, she squeezes her eyes shut and braces for the end. Instead of fangs, she feels a violent rush of wind. A silver-white blur tears through the clearing. Wolves scatter like leaves in a storm. When she opens her eyes, she's no longer on the ground. Yuri holds her securely in his arms, his figure framed against the bright blue sky. The pack recoils around them, wary now. Phil exhales his name, voice shaking with relief. Yuri looks down at her, expression steady and almost bored. He tells her to leave the rest to him. Yuri steps in front of Phil and steadies her as 3 wolves snarl across the clearing. She stares at him, stunned that he showed up out of nowhere. He calmly explains he followed her because he couldn't let her return alone after helping secure the medicinal herbs. He admits he'd been watching from the shadows, impressed by how she handled herself in the earlier fight. Phil flushes, torn between relief and pride, clutching her chest while staring at him like he just rewrote her entire day. The moment snaps when the wolves roar and charge. Yuri doesn't flinch. His mind flashes back to the inn the night before, when a simple glass of water triggered his strange system and instantly upgraded his water magic from beginner to advanced. Now he taps into that power. Cyan energy coils around his hands as he says he'll end this quickly. He unleashes a towering water tornado. The vortex erupts from the ground, swallowing the wolves and spinning them helplessly before slamming them back down, soaked and dazed. Yuri studies the result and realizes the spell restrains well, but it doesn't finish the job. The wolves stagger up again, hunger burning in their eyes. So he shifts tactics. The air turns cold. Frost crawls over his gloves and condenses into a jagged ice blade in his grip. When the wolves leap, he swings. The strike triggers frozen spears that burst from the earth, impaling and trapping the beasts in crystalline shards. Phil watches in stunned silence, completely blown away. Then Yuri senses something bigger. From the tree line, dozens of yellow eyes ignite in the dark. More wolves pour in. Phil quickly pieces it together. A pack this organized must have a leader. As long as the boss remains, the attacks won't stop. Yuri narrows his gaze, agreeing they just need to eliminate the alpha. Beside him, Lime the slime chirps urgently. Yuri connects with his familiar and sees through Lime's vision. Atop a moss-covered boulder stands a silver wolf, a rank sea monster with 3 glowing red eyes. Returning to himself, Yuri thanks Lime. As regular wolves lunge again, he dodges smoothly and fires a concentrated blast toward the alpha's perch. The rock explodes, but the silver wolf escapes at the last second. The dense forest gives it too much cover. Yuri decides to erase the advantage entirely. He gathers massive mana into his palm, forming a miniature sun. He orders Lime to retreat. Then he releases a catastrophic spiral of advanced fire magic. A white-hot pillar of flame tears through the forest, incinerating trees instantly. The silver wolf is caught in the inferno, reduced to ash as the blaze consumes everything in its path. When the fire dies, only scorched earth and smoke remain where the forest once stood. Yuri lowers his hand, calm as ever. Phil, on the other hand, is shaken to her core. She demands to know what kind of power that was. Yuri tilts his head innocently and says he just used standard fire magic. Phil completely loses it, insisting there was nothing standard about that at all. The battlefield's aftermath is spread across the dirt, from tiny E-rank magic stones to a medium wind magic stone, glowing faint green. Phil stares at the massive pile of linen grass they harvested, already stressing over how two people are supposed to carry all of it. Yuri rubs his chin, thinking through the logistics. And the moment he wishes for an easier way, a blue interface flashes in front of him. He's just unlocked intermediate attributeless magic. The skill settles in, spatial contraction. He figures it probably triggered after finally getting a proper night's sleep at the inn, something he hasn't had since arriving in this world. Either way, problem solved. They head back to the Adventurers Guild, its blue-tiled towers rising over the city. Inside, Phil confidently slaps a jagged magic stone onto the counter. The receptionist adjusts her glasses, confirms the kill, and can't hide her surprise. Clearing an E-class monster on a first quest isn't normal. Phil soaks it in, officially earning her F-rank status, then jumps in celebration while Yuri watches quietly. When the receptionist turns to Yuri, she notices his empty hands and asks if he has anything to report. He calmly tells her to wait and raises his hand toward the center of the hall. Blue magic circles spin into existence as space distorts. Then he releases it. A mountain of linen grass explodes into the guild hall, towering over desks and chairs. The receptionist freezes. The commotion draws senior staff. An elderly man with a silver mustache and monocle pushes forward, skeptical at first. Then he digs into the pile and pulls out the glowing emerald wind magic stone. His hands shake as he identifies it and demands to know if Yuri defeated a silver wolf. Yuri just blinks and asks if that's a problem. The guild erupts. Staff rush to the back rooms to report what just happened, while Yuri and Phil stand casually beside the herb mountain like this is just another day. Phil can barely contain herself, already declaring Yuri future top-tier material. Yuri leans on a railing, detached, waiting for the verdict. Eventually, the inner doors open. A group of officials, led by a silver-haired man in a formal waistcoat, steps out and bows deeply. They announce an exception. Yuri is being promoted straight to B rank. The hall goes silent. Veteran adventurers whisper in disbelief. No newcomer jumps tears like that, and Yuri shuts it down immediately. He flatly refuses the promotion and declares he'll remain F rank. The collective gasp echoes through the guild. Later, under the amber glow of sunset, Phil still can't process it. She asks if he's really turning down that kind of status. Yuri explains higher ranks mean constant summons, pressure, and attention. He calls it a hassle. He admits things are unfolding too similarly to his previous life, and he refuses to repeat it. He says he just wants freedom, to move at his own pace, to stay low profile. Then he suggests they continue together as low-rank adventurers. Phil looks at him like she's seeing him clearly for the first time. She respects that he doesn't chase glory. Meanwhile, she can't ignore the gap between them. She remembers barely surviving one wolf and freezing when surrounded. She thinks about failing even basic herb quests, beginners usually clear. The difference in strength hits her hard. Instead of shrinking from it, she decides she'll work harder. With renewed energy, she thanks him and sprints down the cobblestone street. Yuri gives a short farewell and watches her disappear into the crowd. But they aren't alone. From a dark alley, a hardened man with a bitter expression watches Yuri's back. He mutters Yuri's name like it tastes poisonous. Behind him, leaning against stone, stands a tall, hooded figure wearing a disturbing mask stitched into a wide grin with a single red nose. The man asks if the job will be done. The masked assassin calmly promises it will. The sunset washes the cobblestone streets in orange as Phil stretches with a tired groan, arms high, back arched. She jokes about being completely drained. Yuri walks beside her, hands near his belt, calmly telling her to go home and rest instead of overdoing it. She agrees, smiling through half-lidded exhaustion, and they split in the middle of the busy district. She waves one last time and jogs off, twin pigtails bouncing as she disappears around a corner. Yuri stays behind, the evening settling into something quieter. Then his stomach growls hard. He realizes he hasn't eaten all day. Remembering the gold from today's haul, he decides he's earned a proper meal. He stops in front of the Cervantes Adventurers Tavern, warm light leaking through the door. He steps inside, a bell chiming overhead. Immediately, someone shouts his name. Behind the counter stands a large canine-faced lichen in a waiter's vest and bow tie, pointing at Yuri in disbelief. Yuri recognizes him from the eastern forest, a beast man he once ran into. He casually calls him Poncho. The wolfman snaps back with his full name, slamming his paws on the counter before finally calming down. Poncho heads to the stove, admitting his adventuring days are over. After being abandoned by his former party and nearly dying, fear got to him. Now he cooks instead. He prepares a plate of squid, ink, spaghetti Nero loaded with seafood and slides it across the counter. Yuri takes a bite. It's incredible. He gives a rare, honest compliment, and Poncho laughs proudly, admitting he used to be his party's cook anyway. Then Poncho's tone darkens. He mentions rumors from the guild, especially about Yuri destroying the magic power meter. He warns him about Zack, a smug former leader. Yuri remembers the face instantly. Poncho explains Zack left him to die in a dungeon without hesitation. Worse, Zack hires professional killers to eliminate promising rookies so he can control rewards and reduce competition. Yuri starts asking what these assassins look like. The ceiling explodes inward. Wood and plaster rain down as a masked figure drops into the tavern, a massive axe slamming into the floor hard enough to crack the timber. Purple aura pulses around him. Poncho immediately recognizes him. The infamous human killer Joker. The assassin doesn't waste time. He charges, axe blazing with red energy. Yuri raises his blade to block, but the impact shatters it instantly. Steel fragments scatter across the floor. Yuri glances at the broken hilt, realizing his gear just hit its limit. Metsu presses forward, carving through tables and chairs, mocking Yuri for retreating. Yuri dodges through the wreckage, mind racing. High-level magic would flatten the entire building. He needs something smaller. His eyes lock onto the bar shelves. He darts over, grabs a heavy green bottle, and channels mana into it. Blue energy wraps around the glass, reinforcing it with a shockwave spell. As Metsu closes in, Yuri leaps and slams the bottle down. The explosion of force detonates outward. Metsu is blasted across the tavern, crashing through cabinetry and disappearing under shattered wood and bottles. Silence follows, except for debris settling. Yuri lands lightly and tosses aside his broken hilt. He casually asks Poncho where he can buy a new weapon. Poncho stares at the ruined tavern in pure devastation. Outside, in a nearby alley, a disheveled man watches with a scowl before slipping back into the shadows. Yuri follows directions to a stone building marked with the 100-beard sign. He pushes inside and walks straight into chaos. A red-haired girl in white armor is slamming a broken sword onto the counter, arguing with a dwarf blacksmith wearing a horned helmet and goggles. The dwarf refuses to accept blame for the blade breaking so quickly. She refuses to leave without answers. Her presence dominates the shop. Fiery red hair, sharp blue eyes, stance firm like she's ready for battle. She demands accountability without backing down. Yuri stands near the doorway, holding a small memo, already exhausted. His half-lidded eyes and flat expression say it all. To him, this isn't dramatic tension. It's just more trouble showing up uninvited. Inside a cramped timber workshop, packed with the smell of charcoal and iron, Rico Granes is going off. 16 years old, long crimson hair, face burning red, she's demanding compensation for a shattered rapier laid out on the counter. She refuses to accept it as is, and wants a proper replacement. Across from her stands Ugo Mantle, a dwarf with a graying beard and goggles resting on his helmet. He lets out a tired sigh and tells her the truth no one wants to hear. The town's economy is in shambles. Quality weapons are a luxury now. If she wants something better, she'll have to look elsewhere. Yuri stands slightly behind them, quiet, holding a stack of papers. He doesn't interrupt at first. His attention locks onto the broken blade. Then his left eye shifts, the iris transforming into a glowing blue geometric pattern. Through that strange vision, he sees the weapon's truth laid bare. Grade D, trash tier materials, but the craftsmanship? Quality A, high skill, flawless execution. The blacksmith isn't the problem. Yuri cuts through the argument with a calm observation. The smith's ability isn't lacking. The materials are garbage. Ugo freezes, surprised that a kid caught that. His expression darkens as he explains that they used to rely on high-grade ore from the northern mines. That supply is gone. A vicious golem took over the mines and claimed them as its territory. He shows them an image of cracked red earth glowing like a wound in the mountainside. With no access to quality ore, he's been forced to work with scraps. The shop may not survive much longer. Yuri doesn't offer pity. He walks to a barrel of mass-produced blades and picks up a plain iron sword. Then he drops a heavy pouch on the counter. 50,000 gil. The wood creaks under the weight. He states plainly that he'll buy the sword and use it to kill the golem. Both Ugo and Rico stare at him like he's insane. Rico flat out says no one fights a golem with a sword. Yuri calmly tests the grip and replies that it's about how the weapon is used. He promises to bring back high-quality ore so Ugo can forge him something worthy. He leaves the shop. Rico storms after him, red cloak snapping in the wind. She blocks his path and demands to see his adventurer license. Yuri hands over a pale blue card. In the center is a bold F, the lowest rank possible. Rico nearly explodes. F rank is for picking herbs and digging potatoes. He's a novice, completely out of his depth. Yuri doesn't understand why she's so worked up. His life isn't her responsibility. Flustered, she admits she doesn't want someone dying because of her broken sword situation. So, she's coming with him. They leave the safety of the town walls. The northern mine looms ahead, a jagged mountain with a dark opening carved into its base. As they approach, dust shifts around heavy stone footsteps. A massive grade D golem steps out, a single dull red eye glowing from its rocky frame. Rico grips her massive hammer and charges without hesitation, telling Yuri to watch carefully. She circles the lumbering giant, moving fast. The lesson is clear. Keep your pace high, stay behind it, and focus on the rear. She leaps into the air and slams her hammer down on its back. The impact cracks stone and sends a shockwave through the ground. The golem drops to one knee. Yuri studies the fight calmly. Massive strength, heavy durability, but painfully slow movement. That's the weakness. Rico lands and smirks, starting to explain that the back is the weak point. Then the golem's core flares bright orange. A beam of concentrated energy blasts out from its chest, roaring toward them. Rico freezes at the sudden shift. Yuri moves. Blue mana erupts around his blade. His eyes glow to match. With one clean horizontal slash, he cuts straight through the energy beam, splitting it apart into harmless sparks. Then he launches forward, body streaking in blue light. His cheap iron sword carves through stone like it's soft clay. Slash after slash lands in rapid succession. In seconds, the golem is reduced to rubble. Rico just stands there, stunned. She asks what he just did. Yuri casually says he cut it down. She chases after him, insisting that attacking a golem head-on with a sword makes no sense. It has to be luck. Yuri pauses and glances back toward the mine entrance. He says maybe she's right. Maybe it was luck. Then multiple red eyes ignite in the darkness. More golems step out, forming a small army. Yuri tightens his grip on the glowing blade and suggests they test that luck theory against the rest of them. The jagged mountain casts long shadows over the cave entrance as Yuri and Rico slip inside. Hidden behind scattered boulders, Zack and his crew watch with burning resentment. Zack can't stand it. Yuri killed a golem solo and stepped into territory they considered theirs. He mutters that Aizawa Yuri won't get away with this. But while they're focused on him, something far worse appears behind them. A masked figure rising from the dark, a single red eye glowing, a crimson orb in hand reflecting the fear on their faces. Deeper in the cavern, arcane pressure surges. Yuri's eyes flare bright blue, rings of light spinning in his pupils. He unleashes a crushing pillar of energy that detonates across the battlefield, obliterating the surrounding rock golems in a single overwhelming blast. Stone shatters, dust floods the air. When the light fades, rubble is all that remains. Yuri exhales calmly. Rico stands frozen behind him, completely stunned by the scale of what he just did. Ignoring her shock, Yuri collects chunks of iron ore into a sack, satisfied with the quality. He finds a small, non-elemental magic stone and hands it to Lime, the blue slime perched on his shoulder. Rico finally snaps out of it and demands answers. Who is he really? Yuri shrugs and repeats that he's just an F-rank adventurer. She calls that impossible. He insists he's serious. Their exchange is cut short when Zack and his men step into the clearing, weapons drawn. Zack sneers, calling Yuri a nuisance. Rico instantly realizes they're hostile. Yuri decides to remove her from danger. He quietly orders Lime to take her somewhere safe. Before she can argue, the slime expands into a giant bouncing sphere, scoops her up, and rockets through the tunnels with her screaming in confusion. Left alone, Yuri asks Zack why he's so fixated on him. He doesn't even remember doing anything. That indifference makes Zack snap. He recalls past attempts to crush Yuri, only for Yuri to act like none of it mattered. To Zack, that's humiliation. Rage twists his face as he loses control. Elsewhere, a crimson eye watches as they cross into forbidden ground. To its owner, Yuri is just a pest that needs to be erased. Three figures suddenly charge Yuri in a narrow ravine, moving with frantic desperation. Their eyes glow red, teeth bared like animals. Instead of striking cleanly, they throw themselves at him, clinging to his torso and legs with brutal force. Yuri frowns, confused. His vision activates again, revealing their status. Berserk. Increased durability. No pain, no intelligence. Even the mage further back is caught in the same frenzy. The mage raises a green staff and unleashes a sharp crescent of wind magic straight at Yuri. Pinned down, Yuri can't dodge. The blast detonates in a violent explosion, filling the ravine with smoke. The mage laughs, convinced Yuri is dead. Then a pulse of green light forms within the dust. Yuri stands unharmed, holding a condensed sphere of wind mana between his hands. System notifications confirm it. He just acquired wind magic and pushed it from beginner to advanced in seconds. He didn't just survive the spell, he mastered it. Wind erupts around him. He releases an advanced gale blast, a towering pillar of jade energy that rips through the ravine. The berserkers and mage are hurled away like debris in a storm. When the dust settles, they lie unconscious across the cracked earth. Yuri steadies his breathing. Strong new skill, but the fight isn't done. He turns toward the shadows beneath a cliff and calmly tells the hidden watcher to step out. The ground ripples like liquid darkness. A tall man rises from it, cloaked in a dark hooded tunic with flowing ribbons and a sleek mask. His red eyes gleam with intelligence, and a chilling grin spreads across his face. He greets Aizawa Yuri like they've met before, and just like that, the real threat finally reveals itself. Deep inside a cavern swallowed by shadows, A man in a dark hood and pointed mask steps forward and introduces himself as Nero Nightmare. He spreads his arms like he owns the place, silver hair glinting under the dim light, while a status window casually identifies him as a 28-year-old human. Across from him, Yuri stands steady with his spear in hand, face calm, watching the last traces of wind fade after Nero's flashy magic display. Nero starts clapping slowly, amused. He praises Yuri's strength, saying it makes sense that the weaker members of his group couldn't handle him. Then he lays it out plainly: join their organization, or die here. The word organization hits Yuri harder than the threat. A cold wave of familiarity washes over him. In an instant, memories from his past life surge forward. He sees himself as a sword saint, standing before rows of kneeling, hooded subordinates. Then the image twists into something darker, his bare torso bound in heavy iron chains. He remembers the pain, the suffering, and the price he paid for once belonging to a group just like this one. Composed, he asks Nero if he's one of the numbers. That question wipes the grin off Nero's face. No outsider should know about their hierarchy. His mind races, and he concludes Yuri must be a member too. Nero demands to see Yuri's hand, explaining that every member has their rank engraved into their skin. He reveals his own mark, 928, glowing against his glove. Yuri slowly rolls up his sleeve, recalling the old rule. The smaller the number, the stronger the fighter. A faint blue light pulses from his wrist. The number that appears is 0. Nero stumbles back in horror. 0 was permanently retired 500 years ago. It shouldn't exist. Yuri looks at the mark with mild confusion, remembering the first seat was supposed to be the strongest, and wondering what 0 means in that scale. Fear quickly mutates into rage. Nero convinces himself it's a fake meant to mock their order. He draws his blade and vanishes in a blur. The assassin moves like a phantom, circling Yuri at impossible speed, appearing in multiple places at once. Steel flashes from every angle while his voice echoes through the darkness, taunting Yuri's ability to keep up. Yuri doesn't flinch. His eyes track the movement with subtle precision. He admits internally that Nero is fast, the fastest opponent he's faced in this life, but that's all it is. Fast. A strike that should have landed clean misses as Yuri shifts at the last possible instant. Nero pulls out a violet glowing dagger, a grade B weapon laced with paralyzing venom. Yuri's eyes gleam cold blue as he analyzes it instantly and decides distance is survival. He thrusts his hand forward, launching a compact fireball that forces Nero to guard. The assassin laughs at the basic spell, but that's exactly the opening Yuri wants. A wind blade slices through the air immediately after. As Nero adjusts to the dual attack, the ground erupts beneath him into jagged crystalline spikes. Waterbind locks his legs in place. Before he can react, a massive water whirl crashes down a crushing vortex of pressure and liquid force. Nero freezes in shock, unable to comprehend a mage wielding 3 elements seamlessly. Yuri steps forward, drawing his sword. He chants under his breath, layering durability enhancement, destructive power enhancement, and impact diffusion onto the blade. Blue energy wraps around him as he lunges. Nero's mask can't hide his terror. He begs for it to stop. It doesn't. The impact detonates in a surge of magic, and when the light fades, Nero is sealed inside a jagged tomb of ice. Yuri watches the frozen remains in silence. He thinks back to chains and collars and makes a quiet promise he will never live shackled again. This life will be his. The scene shifts to a peaceful town bathed in forge light. A proud dwarf blacksmith presents Yuri with a grade B buster sword, forged from high-purity iron. Yuri tests the balance and feels its reliability instantly. When he tries to pay, the dwarf refuses, saying he only returned to smithing because Yuri defeated the golem terrorizing them. Yuri leaves with new steel at his side and the clarity of newly gained advanced swordsmanship. Walking along the cobblestone street, he hears his name. A red-haired warrior in crimson armor and a brown-haired girl with twin pigtails rush toward him, excited about a wolf quest and a trip to the armor shop. But when they get close enough to see his face clearly, they freeze. Confusion replaces excitement. They stare at him like he's a stranger. The twin-tailed girl suddenly points at him, face red with indignation, demanding to know if the red-haired warrior is his preferred type. The armored woman fires back instantly, denying any romantic link with Yuri. And just like that, Yuri mentally checks out. He turns into a pale, simplified silhouette of pure awkwardness while the two argue loudly behind him. He stands there, spiritually absent, waiting for it to pass. Eventually, the chaos shifts into background noise. The evening sun paints the town gold. Behind him, the red-haired warrior now lectures the smaller girl, pressing a finger to her forehead while the girl continues protesting. Yuri keeps walking, relaxed. Dressed like a low-level mercenary in light leather armor with a simple sword at his waist, he blends perfectly into the crowd. To the world, he's just an F-rank adventurer. But as he strolls deeper into the city, a faint smile forms. After everything after chains, betrayal, and death, this ridiculous, chaotic new life is finally starting to feel fun. The sun lights up the blue-tipped spires of the city as Yuri steps up to the guild counter, lime resting comfortably in his palm. He greets the cat-eared receptionist and asks for a high-reward hunting quest with plenty of monsters. He wants more magic stones for Lime, and the slime chirps happily in agreement. The receptionist hands him a goblin hunt, defeat 10 or more for 20,000 gil. Yuri accepts immediately, but she reminds him that F-rank adventurers must form a party before heading out. He heads to the fountain in the busy plaza, recalling a recruitment notice for a frontline sword fighter. There he finds Lid Ulmer posing arrogantly with 2 female adventurers, Musel, the cat Sith, and a human named Emily. Yuri explains he saw their post and wants in. Lid looks disappointed that Yuri is another guy but checks his gear anyway. The sword passes inspection, so Lid asks for his license. The moment he sees the F rank, his face twists with disgust. He calls Yuri trash and tells him to get lost before storming off with his party, leaving Yuri alone and confused. While wondering how forming a party became this hard, Yuri hears a familiar voice. Rico, the red-haired warrior in crimson armor, approaches. After hearing his situation, she agrees to team up with him. As they walk, she checks her map and shares bad news. The goblins in the northern forest have already been cleared out. She suggests the western Highlands instead, but it's a 2-hour walk, and other parties might get there first. Yuri glances at Lime, realizing walking won't be necessary. Blue energy radiates from the slime as it expands in a flash of light, transforming into a massive feathered bird with powerful talons. Rico stares in shock before they're suddenly airborne. The giant bird tears through the sky at incredible speed. Yuri stays calm while Rico clings on for dear life, completely overwhelmed. He casually explains that this is just Lime's transport form, though she's convinced nothing about it is normal. They arrive at the western Highlands, rolling hills and forests glowing under the sun. Lime shrinks back into a small blue droplet. Rico stumbles upon landing, dizzy but quickly distracted by the peaceful scenery, a clear stream winding through the glade. The calm shatters instantly. Yuri's eyes flash blue as he detects movement in the trees. An arrow whistles toward Rico's head. He catches it mid-air inches from her face. She freezes, shaken. As he turns toward the forest, dozens of goblins lurk in the foliage, bows drawn. A dark wave of arrows rains down. Yuri draws his blade and moves like lightning, slicing and deflecting every projectile with flawless precision. In seconds, broken shafts cover the ground. Rico watches in stunned admiration. Just as Yuri prepares to wipe out the goblins in one decisive strike, Rico grabs his arm and stops him. She draws her rapier, standing tall with fierce resolve. She refuses to stay behind him any longer and declares she'll handle the rest herself, determined to prove her honor and worth as a true knight. Rico charges ahead with everything she's got, cape snapping behind her as she barrels toward the goblin archers. The memory of feeling useless in the mines burns in her chest, pushing her forward. Her rapier flashes in clean arcs of silver, cutting down goblins with sharp, disciplined strikes. From a short distance away, Yuri watches calmly. She's skilled, no doubt, but there are too many enemies for one person to handle alone. He lifts his hand, blue mana swirling around his palm. He tells Rico to hold the line. Magic circles flare around her arms and legs, flooding her with enhanced speed and strength. She gasps as the power kicks in. Her body moves faster than she can process, her strikes hitting with crushing force. Goblins fall apart under her blade. The rush hits her hard, half thrill, half disbelief, and she shouts toward Yuri about the insane power surging through her. Yuri keeps his voice steady, telling her to focus on the ground troops while he deals with the archers in the trees. As goblins draw their bows from the branches, he unleashes arcane cannon. A massive beam of blue light tears through the tree line, erasing the reinforcements in one blinding blast. When the light fades, the meadow is silent and littered with bodies. Rico drops to one knee, breathing hard. She demands to know what he just did to her, but Yuri shrugs it off as basic enhancement magic. She knows that's not true. While they catch their breath, Lime happily bounces around, absorbing magic stones from the corpses. Then Rico suddenly winces, grabbing her thigh. A shallow cut burns sharply. Yuri's eyes glow faintly as he analyzes it poison. The goblins coated their weapons. He calls Lime over. The slime hops onto her leg and presses against the wound, drawing out the purple venom. As the toxin drains, glowing status windows flash before Yuri. He unexpectedly gains beginner, intermediate, and advanced holy magic proficiency at once. Rico exhales as the burning fades, thanking Lime, but she's still favoring the leg. Yuri reaches out, white light gathering in his hand. He uses a beginner holy spell, weaving soft energy into the wound. The glow wraps around her thigh, sealing the injury completely. When the light fades, her skin and clothing are flawless. She stares at him in disbelief, demanding to know where he learned healing magic. He casually rubs the back of his head and claims he just figured it out. That only deepens her suspicion. Holy magic is rare. She starts questioning who he really is, but he sidesteps it and suggests they find the goblin's nest. She doubts they can track them, but Yuri reveals he already planned ahead. While some goblins fled, he attached a tiny piece of lime to them. The slime pulses on his shoulder, then jumps down and reshapes into a glowing blue arrow pointing deeper into the forest. Rico can only shake her head at how versatile this creature is. They move carefully through the trees until they reach a massive, jagged cavern carved into a cliffside. As Yuri steps toward the entrance, Rico grabs his shoulder and pulls him back. A stronghold this size won't just house stragglers, it'll be packed with enemies, likely with a boss. Yuri considers simply wiping the cave out with a massive spell, but dismisses the idea. Without physical proof, they can't claim the reward. Before they decide their next move, a mocking voice calls out behind them. A tall blonde man approaches with a smug grin, two female adventurers clinging to his arms. He sneers at Yuri, calling him a bottom-tier potato digger. Rico looks confused, but Yuri immediately recognizes him, the arrogant adventurer from the fountain earlier. They'd been followed. The blonde man, Lid, steps in close, nearly nose to nose, laughing as he says they don't stand a chance against what's inside and should go back to pulling weeds. He and his party stride into the cavern, voices echoing with taunts as they disappear into the dark. Rico watches them with open disdain, muttering that she's glad they never teamed up. Yuri nods, though his expression stays serious. As arrogant as Lid is, he's probably right about the danger. Side by side, they tighten their gear and step into the damp tunnel, moving carefully as they descend into the heart of the enemy's lair. Lid marches through the cavern like he owns it, arms hooked around his two companions, bragging that any goblin dumb enough to show up will drop in one swing. His laughter bounces off the stone walls. Behind him, Yuri stays quiet, eyes scanning the tunnel. They've gone too deep without seeing a single monster. That's not normal. Rico walks close, hand near her sword, clearly feeling the same tension. Then the air shifts. A thick violet mist coils around their feet and rises fast. Yuri's eyes flare with mechanical blue light as he analyzes it. Dark mist, a low-grade curse meant to blind living beings. He warns the group, but the fog swallows everything, splitting them apart in a haze of purple. Red eyes ignite in the gloom. Dozens. Yuri immediately realizes it's an ambush. He shouts, just as goblins burst from the mist. He and Rico move at once. Her blade cuts in crimson arcs, clean and decisive. Yuri's sword leaves streaks of blue as he flows through the attackers. The goblins are numerous but sloppy, uncoordinated. Still, something feels off. More shadows gather deeper in the cavern. Elsewhere, Lid keeps posturing while cutting down a few small goblins, showing off for the girls. Then the ground trembles. A towering blue-skinned goblin rises behind him, muscles bulging. Two more step forward. Lid turns pale. He swings wildly, screaming, but his blade only sparks against the lead monster's hide. The brute grabs him by the head and slams him into the stone. Blood smears across his face. Instead of fighting, he panics. As the giants close in, he bolts, shoving the pink-haired and gray-haired girls aside to save himself. They hit the ground as massive hands pin them down. One elite goblin lowers its jagged teeth toward them. A flash of blue cuts through the darkness. Yuri appears like lightning. His spinning slash sends a crescent of energy through the lead goblin's neck. Its head drops before its body does. He plants himself between the trembling girls and the remaining elites. Without turning, he calmly asks if they're okay. They nod shakily. He orders Rico to guard them. She steps back, forming a defensive line. More blue-skinned figures emerge. A status window identifies them as Goblin Elites, Grade D, Berserk State. Bigger, tougher, numb to pain. They charge. Yuri doesn't move back. He raises his palm and activates intermediate wind magic. A violent wall of swirling air erupts outward, slamming the elites into the cavern walls with crushing force. They drop instantly, bodies limp against the stone. For a moment, there's silence. Then thicker purple mist rolls in. A tall, robed figure steps forward, draped in furs, blue-gray skin marked with red paint. It speaks clearly, voice rough but intelligent. A notification appears: Goblin Shaman, Grade B. Yuri's eyes narrow. A talking goblin, possibly the boss. The shaman mocks him for killing its kin, pretending sorrow. Then its tone turns cold. The fallen goblins were sacrifices. Fuel. It casts soul drain. Thick ropes of purple energy lash out, wrapping around Yuri. His limbs grow heavy. Magic bleeds from his body. Darkness creeps into his vision. Rico watches in horror as the shaman laughs, commanding him to wither away. Then everything changes. Notifications flash. Beginner, intermediate, advanced cursed magic acquired. The draining energy doesn't kill him, it's absorbed. Yuri stands upright, crackling with violet-black electricity. The shaman's grin collapses into shock. Yuri says calmly that he'll return the curse. He extends his hand. The spirits of the sacrificed goblins manifest, swirling in the air. But instead of attacking him, they turn on the shaman, whispering hatred toward the master who used them. The shaman stammers, trying to negotiate. Too late. Yuri releases a surge of cursed energy. A pillar of purple light engulfs the cavern. The shaman's scream is swallowed as its body shrivels into a rotted husk. When the light fades, only a melted skeleton remains. Yuri looks down at it, noting that even in death, the spirits hated their master far more than they ever feared him. White feathers drift across a clear sky while seagulls cry over the glittering ocean. Yuri sits alone on a wooden crate at the end of a stone pier, rod steady, eyes fixed on the horizon. For once, everything feels calm. His thoughts slide back to his old life in Japan, boxed into an office, glued to a screen, drowning in work with no freedom to breathe. This peaceful life, this open sky and endless sea, feels like payback for all of that. A reward he earned the hard way. That calm breaks when two familiar women call out to him. They're the same adventurers who once stared at him in shock near a dark cave. Now they approach with flushed faces and awkward reverence. After he saved their lives, they apparently had a change of heart. They insist they'll do anything for him. Yuri barely reacts. No ego boost, no interest. He just hands them a small stone container and tells them to put bait on his hook. They open it confidently and instantly regret it. Inside is a writhing pile of earthworms twisting over each other in a tangled mass. Their expressions collapse into pure horror. They scream, drop everything, and bolt down the pier like their lives depend on it. Yuri just watches them disappear, completely confused by the overreaction. Before the silence can settle, his fishing rod bends violently. The sea erupts into a massive whirlpool, water spiraling with terrifying force. This isn't a normal catch. Yuri plants his feet, his boredom gone in a flash. Blue mana flares around his arms and blade as he activates enchantment magic, reinforcing his endurance against the monstrous pull below. The ocean explodes upward. A colossal shark launches into the air, jaws packed with jagged teeth, shadow swallowing the pier. It dives straight for him. Yuri doesn't move until the last second. His sword flashes. A crescent of blue energy slices clean through the shark's head mid-air. The creature crashes onto the stone, blood spilling across the pier in thick waves. A translucent system window pops up. Beginner fishing skill acquired. Yuri wipes blood from his cheek, briefly wondering if he bled the catch properly. A frantic scream interrupts him. Phil comes sprinting down the pier, completely drenched in dried blood from her own battles. She looks like chaos in motion. The second her boots hit the fresh shark blood, she slips hard and slams into the stone. Yuri stares down at her while she groans. She scrambles up, panicked. As new adventurers, they're required to attend monthly guild training. If they miss it, their licenses get revoked. That would be a problem. She grabs his hand to drag him toward the city, yelling for them to hurry, only to slip again and crash flat on her back. Yuri exhales, glancing at the mess covering both of them, and calmly suggests they change clothes first. Elsewhere, towering cathedral spires overlook a courtyard filled with F-rank trainees. A dark-haired boy and a girl with brown pigtails stand side by side, tense as they wonder what kind of trials await them. From a high balcony, a purple-haired girl with a white ribbon watches with sharp eyes. Then she leaps down in one smooth motion, landing in front of the group as dust kicks up around her boots. She announces the start of training. This is Aisha Berlante, 16 years old and already a 10th-ranked B-class adventurer known as Thorny Aisha. The crowd stiffens. One bearded man gasps in recognition. The girl with pigtails can't believe her companion hasn't heard of someone so infamous. Aisha wastes no time. She calls the entire group trash that needs recycling. The insult sets the bearded man off. He grabs her by the collar, warning her not to get cocky. Her face stays blank. In one flawless motion, she twists his wrist and flips him over her shoulder. He smashes into the stone, rock shards flying as he gasps for air. She adjusts her scarf and invites the rest to attack together. Several men rush her with weapons drawn. Aisha uncoils a dark whip and moves like a phantom. The whip cracks through the air with brutal precision. Within seconds, every attacker is down. When the dust clears, only the dark-haired boy and the girl with pigtails remain standing. Aisha turns to the boy with a faint, knowing smile. She notes his wisdom in not charging blindly. Impressed by his judgment, she steps closer and offers him a special sword lesson. The boy and his friend can only stare back, stunned, as the real training finally begins. The purple-haired instructor leads her group through a sunlit forest, brisk and purposeful, while the twin-tailed brunette behind her complains that their last training session was just standing still doing nothing. The instructor barely glances back. Standing still was the right answer, and the discussion is over. Privately, she has no patience for fresh F ranks. Newly qualified adventurers get their cards and immediately overestimate themselves, and she considers it her personal mission to demolish that illusion. She stops before a colossal ancient tree and announces it as the training ground. Yuri asks what the plan is. The instructor draws her blade without a word, closes her eyes, relaxes her stance, and delivers a single upward diagonal movement too fast to follow. Then she sheathes the weapon and waits, a beat of silence. Then the upper half of the tree slides cleanly off the stump and crashes to the forest floor with earth-shaking force. Standing in the settling dust, she declares that's B-rank power. The brunette is horrified. When told it's their turn, she immediately pushes back. The instructor keeps the lesson simple. Nobody starts strong. The point is to keep swinging until the skill clicks, and felling the tree earns them intermediate swordsmanship. The girl grips the borrowed sword and swings as hard as she can. The blade bounces off the bark with a jarring impact, sparks flying, leaving her arms numb. She hands the weapon to Yuri, cheering him on. Yuri takes the sword and thinks it over. He has advanced swordsmanship, and this is a perfect test, but the blade is borrowed. so he decides to hold back and swing lightly. He swings lightly. A wall of blue energy erupts from the blade, obliterates the trunk, and scorches a massive trench deep into the forest. Yuri turns around, sword still intact, to find both girls frozen in identical stunned disbelief. Aisha pulls her collar up, struggling to form a coherent question. Yuri points out he only followed her instructions exactly. Desperate to save face, she calls it perfectly normal. The brunette loses it completely. Aisha doubles down with a bold lie. She's wiped out a whole forest in one slash before, which launches her companion into a full breakdown about environmental destruction. Before things unravel further, Aisha moves them to a desolate canyon flanked by tall gray cliffs, no vegetation, no collateral risk, ideal for magic. She asks Yuri if he's had formal training. When he admits he hasn't, something immediately shifts in her. A visible aura of excitement radiates off her, bunny ribbon twitching. A complete magic beginner means no competition. This is her moment to shine. She steps forward and demonstrates without hesitation. Her magic circle ignites advanced fire magic, infernal funeral spear, and a column of thermal energy slams down from the sky, cratering the stone and blasting debris outward. The brunette applauds and Aisha flips her hair, calling it routine. Yuri watches silently and internally accepts the rank is deserved. She tells him magic is all about imagination, then steps aside. Yuri closes his eyes, reconstructs the sensation of her mana, the heat and shape of the spell, and steps forward. He casts the same spell. A sword of golden fire the size of a building drops from the sky. The impact turns the canyon floor to slag, and the shockwave whites out everything. When the light fades, both girls are frozen solid in shock, but there's no time to process it because the canyon walls are already crumbling. Boulders break free and plummet toward them. Both girls scream and lock up. Yuri doesn't flinch. He reads the situation, extends his hand, and switches elements instantly. Intermediate water magic. Ice pillar wall. A dome of jagged ice spikes erupts from the ground and shatters every boulder on impact. When the debris settles, the group stands untouched beneath a shell of frost. Aisha stares at his back. The shock has curdled into something quieter, deep, unsettled suspicion. She asks, barely above a whisper, who he actually is. Yuri glances back with only a vague hum of acknowledgement. System notifications shimmer in the air confirming advanced fire magic and intermediate water magic acquired. Yuri doesn't look at them. He adjusts his armor, mutters that he's just an F-rank adventurer, and walks away. That line breaks Aisha completely. She doubles over, laughing until she can barely breathe, her small white companion joining in, as she points at his retreating figure and struggles to shout between gasps. High above, a masked rider on a winged beast circles over smoke rising from distant mountains, watching the destruction below with calm interest. That combination of swordsmanship and magic is exactly what he'd expect from whoever defeated. Number 928. He turns and asks his companion, number 230, whether he can handle the target. The demon beside him almost laughs at the question. White-haired, red-skinned, horned, crackling with dark energy, number 230 bares his fangs in a grin of pure arrogance. He turns his glowing yellow eyes on the masked man and asks whether a superior being like himself could ever lose to a mere human. Inside the tavern's warm, quiet atmosphere, Yuri Aizawa calmly eats his pasta while Poncho leans over the counter, asking about Aisha's new job as an instructor. The Beastman owner smiles nostalgically, remembering their old party days and how she used to tease his limited cooking skills. Still, he respects her, acknowledging that her relentless effort pushed her to B rank. He assumes she's just trying to act responsible now that she has juniors under her. Yuri listens without much reaction, focused on his food. The door suddenly swings open. A tall man with blazing red hair, a matching goatee, and heavy dark armor steps in, a crimson cape flowing behind him. The tavern quiets instantly. This is Rosas Biscotti, the legendary A-rank adventurer known as the Iron Mass. Poncho greets him warmly, but the tension in the room doesn't fade. Rosas walks straight up to Yuri, remarking that he really is fearless. He doesn't waste time. He wants Yuri to join him on an A-rank mission, the subjugation of the evil dragon, a monster capable of wiping out an entire nation in one breath. Poncho nearly chokes, loudly reminding Rosas that Yuri is officially only F-rank. Rosas doesn't care. Meeting him in person only confirms his belief that Yuri's true strength rivals A-rank hunters, even if he chooses to stay at the bottom. The dragon recently appeared in the western Highlands, cloaked in scales and violet flames. The guild is assembling a special task force to eliminate it, and Rosas wants Yuri on that team. Before Yuri can respond, a cold voice cuts in from the entrance. An elven woman with silver blue hair and sharp eyes steps inside, leaning casually against the doorway. She openly opposes the idea, calling it madness to bring an unknown F-rank into an elite party. She introduces herself as Khloe of the Twilight, a B-rank adventurer ranked 3rd. Her gaze drips with disdain as she makes it clear she will never acknowledge Yuri's abilities, no matter what trick he used to impress Rosas. Yuri quietly notes that he hasn't even agreed yet. Rosas shuts her down, warning her not to judge by rank alone. Khloe brushes him off and picks up a silver fork from a nearby plate. If Rosas is so confident, she'll test Yuri herself. Golden mana gathers around the fork in her hand. She sets the terms. If Yuri can return the fork she throws, she'll acknowledge him. If he fails, he's out and can spend his life digging potatoes. The tavern grows heavy as her mana swells. She launches the fork. It tears through the air like a golden comet, powered by overwhelming magic. Yuri watches calmly, recognizing the strength behind it. Instead of dodging, he raises a finger. Blue energy ignites in his eyes and flows into his hand. The fork collides with his fingertip and stops instantly against a barrier of azure mana. Khloe freezes. Yuri balances the vibrating fork effortlessly and casually asks if returning it is enough. With a flick, he sends it back. It becomes a streak of blue lightning, blasting past her head and slamming into the stone wall behind her. The impact leaves a massive crater. Dust falls. Khloe stands stiff, sweat rolling down her cheek, realizing he intentionally missed her. The power he sent back was far deadlier than what she threw. Without hesitation, Rosas steps forward and declares the decision final. Yuri is officially the last member of their party. He places a heavy gauntlet on Yuri's shoulder, sealing it more like a command than a request. Yuri tries to object, but Rosas bursts into laughter under the bright sky outside, confidently saying he's counting on him tomorrow. Before Yuri fully processes it, he's already been dragged into the mission. Later, inside a village shop, Yuri stands in front of the wreckage of his own store. A circular window is shattered, cracks spreading across the frame, glass scattered everywhere. An older man collapses over a table in dramatic despair, mourning the damage. Yuri offers an awkward apology but accidentally mispronounces the man's name. The shopkeeper snaps upright, shouting that his name is Poncho, not what Yuri just said. The carriage rattles through a forest path toward a distant castle, Rosas driving while apologizing for the cramped ride. Inside, Yuri sits squeezed between Aisha and Khloe. Aisha flashes a smug grin, admitting she recommended him and promising to show the gap between senior and junior adventurers. Khloe scoffs, mocking a 10th place B rank for babysitting an F rank. The two immediately start bickering while Yuri stares ahead, quietly questioning whether he belongs among an A rank and 2 B ranks. Rosas suddenly asks if Yuri is traveling with a slime. Yuri pulls out a small blue creature named Lime. Khloe dismisses it as useless, until Lime hops onto her shoulder. She instantly panics, flailing as Yuri dryly notes the slime seems to like her. The mood snaps when Rosas senses danger above. He orders everyone to jump. A golden beam crashes down, obliterating the carriage and horses in a fiery explosion. Smoke clears as Yuri's appraisal skill activates. The attackers are C-rank wyverns and they're tamed. Someone is controlling them. Rosas splits the team. He and Aisha take the right. Yuri and Khloe head left. Yuri suggests distracting the flyers while Khloe prepares magic. She shuts him down, refusing orders from someone she hasn't acknowledged. Blue ether swirls around her arm as she casts Hail Spike Cannon. Massive ice shards launch skyward, skewering the wyverns and pinning them to the ground. She lowers her hand with a smug smile, while Yuri silently admits she lives up to her rank. A roar shakes the clearing. A massive meteor wyvern descends, red eyes glowing. Yuri confirms it's B rank, and also tamed. The real threat is whoever commands them. Aisha and Khloe combine their power into a dual-colored beam aimed to finish it. The wyvern counters with a blazing sphere of fire that explodes across the horizon. As flames rush toward them, Yuri calmly calls Lime. The slime expands instantly, stretching into a massive translucent form that swallows the inferno whole. The fire ripples harmlessly inside its body. Rosas charges forward, using the expanded slime as a shield. He slams down with crushing force. Yuri follows, blade glowing blue. He layers advanced spells, releases a long-range slash, and cleaves through the battlefield in one fluid strike, ending the wyvern. Silence falls. Khloe mutters it must have been luck, pride clearly shaken. But their problem isn't over. Their horse lies badly wounded, and they need to reach the western Highlands before sunset. Lime can't carry 4 people. Yuri kneels beside the horse and activates intermediate holy magic. Emerald light pours from his hands as wounds close and breathing steadies. His companions stare, stunned. When the glow fades, the horse rises stronger than before. They mount up and gallop. The speed is unnatural. Yuri explains he didn't just heal it, he enhanced it with enchantment magic. The forest thins, light breaking ahead as they burst from the trees. At the hill's crest, they stop. Below them, the valley is a sea of fire. Forests reduced to burning skeletons. Smoke turns the sky a sickly purple. Ash drifts like black snow. Flames stretch to the mountains, swallowing everything. The heat warps the air as the magnitude of destruction settles over them. One of them finally finds his voice, asking what kind of catastrophe could leave the land in such ruin.